She stepped out of the town hall, papers pressed flat against her chest. The door slammed heavily behind her. Before she could take a breath, a man brushed past and caught her hand. Cold iron pressed into her palm. She looked down. A key. Rust at the teeth. Thick for its size. When she lifted her eyes, the man was already walking away. "Wait," she called. He didn't turn. His coat swung wide, boots quick against the dirt. "Stop!" She pushed through two women standing near the post rail. The women turned their faces aside, pretending not to notice. The man cut down the narrow gap between the tailor's wall and the livery. She ran after him, but the space opened to nothing. Only dust. No sound of boots. Her chest tightened. She glanced down at her palm. The key lay there, edges biting her skin. She tried to drop it. Her fingers didn't move. What in hell? Her voice shook. She pressed the key against her thigh, forcing it loose. It stayed pinned to her hand, as if weight dragged it into her flesh. She looked around. Two men on the porch across the street leaned back, eyes low. The women from before whispered sharply, then crossed the road without looking at her. No one asked. No one came near. She swallowed. "You saw him, didn't you?" No answer. "You saw him hand me this." A boy sitting on the steps spat into the dust and ran off without meeting her eyes. Her breath grew short. She shoved the key into her coat pocket. It felt heavier than the papers she carried. When she stepped into the street, an old man tugged his hat lower. She caught his sleeve. "Tell me, who was he?" The man pulled free. "Don't hold that thing in plain sight." Her grip tightened on her papers. "Why? What is it?" "Best not to ask." "You know something." "I don't." His eyes flicked to her pocket. "Bury it. Now." She shook her head. "No." The old man's jaw twitched. He walked away without another word. She stood in the middle of the street, voices humming low around her, none rising enough to reach her. Her hand burned hot where the key pressed against her skin. She turned back toward the town hall. The clerk still sat inside, a pale face behind the front desk. She pushed through the door hard. "You saw him," she said. The clerk didn't flinch. "Who?" "The man who gave me this." She slammed the key onto the desk. The clerk's gaze dropped, then lifted quickly. "You shouldn't bring that in here." "You saw him." "I didn't." "You're lying." The clerk's hand shook as he stacked a pile of forms. "Please take it and leave." "Why? What is it?" His voice broke low. "Not my business." She leaned across the desk, eyes locked. "It is now." The clerk's lips pressed thin. People don't come back from asking. Her hand shot forward. She grabbed the key again. Her skin stung at the touch, but she held it up. "You tell me what." "Door it opens." He looked away. "Say it." His throat moved. He whispered, almost without sound. "Not a door." Her eyes narrowed. "What then?" He wouldn't answer. He stood from his chair and walked into the back room, leaving the desk bare. The silence inside the hall deepened until she could hear her pulse against her ears. She turned and stormed outside. The light felt harsher now. Across the way, a woman balanced a basket on her hip. Their eyes met for a flash. The woman lowered her gaze, shifted the basket, and hurried down the side road. She spat into the dirt. "Cowards!" The key dug deeper into her palm. She couldn't unclench her fist. Her papers slipped from her arm and scattered. She dropped to her knees, gathering them fast. The key pressed harder with every grab until her knuckles went white. A voice came from behind. "Best not let them see you holding it." She turned. A man leaned against the corner of the store. Different man. Broad shoulders, hat tilted low. "You know what this is?" she asked. His eyes didn't lift. "I know enough." "Then tell me." "You don't want it." "I didn't ask if I wanted it." "You'll wish you did." "Tell me." He pushed off the wall slowly. Put it back where he meant it to go. "I don't know where that is." His mouth twitched. "You will." "Why me?" "Because he chose you." "Who chose me?" The man stepped into the street. His boots dragged the dust. He didn't look back. Her voice cut sharp after him. "Say his name." No answer. He kept walking until the crowd swallowed him whole. She stood frozen, papers clutched tight against her chest, the key biting down in her fist. The street hushed as though waiting for her next move. She whispered, almost to herself, "What did you give me?" The key gave no answer. Her breath came shallow. She shoved the papers under her arm again and started down the road toward her house. Faces turned away as she passed. A girl skipped rope near the well. When she neared, the girl stopped, eyes wide. "Where'd you get that?" the girl asked. The woman froze. What? The thing in your hand. Her fingers tightened reflexively. It's nothing. The girl's voice lowered. It's not nothing. Her throat dried. Then what is it? The girl's rope slipped from her hands. She backed away, shaking her head. Don't open it. The words struck harder than the weight in her palm. The woman stood silent as the girl fled across the yard. She walked slower now, steps uneven, until the road bent toward her house. The key dug into her hand the whole way, iron biting like it wanted blood. She walked home with her fists still closed. The key pressed ridges into her skin until the lines turned red. She didn't loosen her hand. Not once. The dirt road bent behind the mill and cut through the empty field. No one followed. No one spoke. But she felt eyes on her all the way. Her boots hit the steps hard. She dropped her papers onto the table inside the door, but the key stayed locked in her grip. Her chest ached from holding it so long. She opened her hand. The key clattered against the wood. Heavy. Louder than it should have been. She stared at it for a long minute. Through the window, the field stretched out, grass low from the dry season. She needed air. She stepped out back. Her boots pressed into the dirt. The sun sat low, light sharp against the clay. She walked without thinking, only moving farther into the yard. Then her toe struck something, a hollow sound different than stone. She froze. She knelt down and brushed dirt with her hand. The shape curved smoothly. Wood. She dug deeper, fingers tearing soil until her nails cracked. Her breath grew short. The ground gave way to a slat. She clawed more. A side rail surfaced. It was a crib. Splintered, caked in clay, but whole, buried deep, as if someone meant for it never to be seen. She rocked back on her heels, chest tight. No. The word left her mouth before she meant it. She pressed her hand against the rail again. It was real. Her neighbor's voice cut from the porch next door. What did you find? She turned. The neighbor sat still in her chair, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the hole. Nothing. That doesn't look like nothing. Stay out of it. I can see from here. Then look away. The neighbor didn't move. Her voice stayed flat. Don't open it. The woman's throat clenched. Why? Some things don't want daylight. You sound like the clerk. He was right. Tell me what this is. The neighbor's jaw tightened. It's not mine to tell. She looked back down at the crib. Her fingers brushed the side. A small lock sat rusted near the bottom rail. She pulled the key from her pocket. It matched. Exact shape. Exact size. Her body stiffened. Her voice cracked. It fits. The neighbor's chair creaked. Then don't turn it. Her hand trembled. She pressed the key against the lock, but didn't twist. Her breath hitched loud in her throat. The field around her stayed silent. Even the wind dropped. She stepped back. The key slipped from her grip and fell into the dirt. She bent down fast, scooped it up, and held it tight again. Her chest burned. The neighbor's voice came sharp now. You're not listening. Why would you watch me dig if you knew all along? I was waiting to see if you'd stop. Then help me. No. You think I can't do it? I know you can. That's the problem. Their voices cut short. The yard felt too still. She stood staring at the crib half buried in the clay, the key hot in her hand. Her neighbor's eyes locked heavy on her. Her breath broke the silence, ragged and fast. The neighbor's voice softened. Please, don't open it tonight. Then, when? Never. That's not an answer. It's the only one I've got. She turned away from the porch. She stared at the crib again, soil still clinging to its sides. The wood smelled faintly old and damp. Her stomach turned. She whispered low, almost to herself. Why was it here? No answer. The neighbor rose from her chair, shawl drawn close. Go inside. Leave it in the dirt. Can you? Yes. You're lying. The neighbor's voice sharpened. Not lying. Surviving. The woman shook her head. Her hands trembled as she pressed dirt back over the crib, covering the lock, the rails, and the shape of it. She shoveled until her nails tore, until her palms burned. When it was hidden again, she stood. Her chest heaved. The key still weighed heavy in her grip. She shoved it into her coat pocket, fabric sagging from the weight. The neighbor spoke once more before retreating inside. You can bury wood. You can't bury what it holds. The door closed. She stood alone. The field stretched quiet, the mound of disturbed earth dark against the rest of the yard. She pressed her hand to her pocket, feeling the drag of iron against her thigh. Her voice cracked softly. "What did you give me?" No one answered. The silence pressed back harder than sound. She stayed in the yard until the light faded. The dirt mound at her feet refused to blend with the earth around it. The key burned against her leg as though waiting. She turned at last, stepping toward the back door, her body stiff. She didn't look over at the porch again. She didn't speak. She closed herself inside, but the weight followed. The house settled around her in groans and quiet. The key clinked against the table when she pulled it free and dropped it. The sound rang long through the empty room. She pressed her hands flat against the wood. Her breath rasped. She didn't dare look out the window again. The knock came before sunrise. 3 heavy strikes, slow and spaced apart. She froze at the table, the key sitting cold in front of her, light from the lamp throwing its shadow long. The knock came again. She pushed herself up, breath held, and opened the door. The sheriff stood there, hat low, one hand resting against the frame. His eyes didn't move to her face. They cut past her shoulder, straight to the back window, where the dirt mound sat heavy in the yard. "Morning," he said. Her voice caught. "You don't come this early unless you want something." "Reports reached me." "From whom?" "It doesn't matter who." "Said you've been digging." She held the door halfway closed against him. "It's my land." His eyes stayed flat. "Still curious what you were digging for." "Then you're wasting your curiosity. Step aside." "No." He leaned closer, voice low. "What's in the ground back there?" She met his stare without blinking. "You already looked." "Didn't have to. Word runs faster than I walk." She pushed the door wider, just enough for him to see her expression. "Then hear this. Nothing back there concerns you. Everything back here concerns me. Sheriff's job. Number the sheriff's job is keeping peace. Digging's not a crime." His jaw tightened. "Depends on what you dig up." She folded her arms. "You want me to say it? Fine. I found wood." "What kind of wood?" "Old wood." "Be straight." "It's a crib." The word cut the air sharp. He glanced past her again, eyes fixing harder on the mound. "You opened it?" "No." "You put a key to it?" "Why would I?" "Because you got one." Her breath hitched. "How do you know that?" "Because I know who gave it." Her hand shook against the frame. "Say his name." "I won't." "Then stop standing on my porch." He shifted his boots. "Listen carefully. Some things don't get opened. Not by me. Not by you. Not by anyone who wants to keep their sleep." She bit hard on her lip. "You expect me to bury it again and pretend? I expect you to live long enough to regret less." Her voice rose sharp. "You sound afraid." "I am." The bluntness hung between them. She stared. He didn't flinch. He lowered his tone. "That wood's been in the dirt longer than you've been alive. Leave it there." Her hands balled into fists. "It's mine now." "Then it'll eat you too." She stepped forward onto the porch, closing the space between them. "If you knew, why didn't you dig it yourself?" His eyes broke for the first time. "Because I was told not to." "By whom?" "The same ones who told me to come knock this morning." Her voice cracked with fury. "The governor?" His silence answered. She shoved his chest. "You take orders from him, not from what's right." He didn't push back. He only said, "You've been warned." "Warning's nothing. Truth's everything. Truth's what gets people buried." She laughed bitterly. "Then maybe I'll take the shovel next." He set his jaw and pulled his hat lower. "You won't win. Then watch me lose." They stared each other down. The silence around them stretched. Every insect in the yard gone still. The sheriff finally stepped back off the porch. He turned once more toward the mound, eyes narrowing, then faced her again. "It's louder now, isn't it?" Her throat caught. "What is it?" "The wood beats like a heart when it's close to being opened." She held her breath, refusing to glance behind. "Get off my land." His boots dragged against the dirt as he walked to the road. He didn't look back again. She slammed the door, leaned against it, and her chest rose sharply. The lamp flickered on the table. The key gleamed in its light, heavy and patient. She covered her ears, but the silence pressed harder. From outside, faint, too faint to be real, came the sound of wood creaking, slow and deliberate. She turned toward the window. The mound sat dark against the grass, still as stone, yet the sound kept echoing in her chest, steady, pulsing, like something waiting beneath. Her voice whispered into the empty room. "Don't beat for me." The sound didn't stop. She dropped the curtains and backed away until her spine hit the wall. The key waited on the table, iron teeth glinting. Her body shook. She forced herself to speak louder, to break the quiet. "You don't own me." But the silence answered back, heavier than words. She walked back into the yard before dawn broke. The dirt mound gleamed faint with dew. Her boots sank softly into the soil as she stood over it. The key burned against her palm. Her voice came low. Not waiting any longer, she dropped to her knees and clawed the earth loose again. The clay clung to her nails, heavy and wet, until the rails of the crib surfaced once more. She dug until the lock showed, rusted and waiting. Her breath came sharp. She lifted the key. Her hand shook. The neighbor's porch door creaked open. A voice cut the dark. "Don't." She turned quickly. The neighbor stood in her shawl, arms wrapped tight. "It's mine to open," she said. "No one's." "I don't care." The neighbor's voice trembled. "If you do it, you won't put it back." Her jaw clenched. "Then I won't." She shoved the key into the lock. It caught with a scrape that made her teeth ache. She twisted hard. The rust gave way with a sharp snap. The crib groaned, wood straining as the side rail shifted. She pulled it open slowly. The sound dragged through the yard like a scream muffled in wood. Her stomach turned. Inside lay folded blankets, stained dark red, edges stiff with time. She staggered back on her knees. "No." The smell of iron rose into her throat. She gagged and pressed her hand to her mouth. A small wooden rattle rested on top of the cloth. Its paint flaked, and one end cracked. Her whisper cracked out. "Who put this here?" The neighbor spoke softer now. "The same ones who warned you not to look." She shook her head. "Say their names." The neighbor's eyes darted toward the road. "You already know." Her body stiffened. She leaned closer to the crib, voice breaking. This was a child's. The neighbor's voice caught. It was many. Her breath hitched. How many? The shawl drew tighter, enough to fill the silence of this town. She stared at the blankets. Her hands trembled above them but wouldn't touch. The smell thickened. The rattle shifted slightly, as if the weight below it settled deeper. Her voice cracked to a whisper. "They buried them." The neighbor nodded. "Who let it happen?" "All of us." Her eyes snapped up. "You stayed quiet." "So did every mother told to." Rage surged through her chest. She slapped the rail of the crib. "And you left them in the dirt?" Her neighbor's voice shook. "We were told it kept the rest alive." She spat. "Cowards!" The widow's warning echoed in her head, but she shoved it aside. She leaned close again, staring at the stains. "I can't close it." The neighbor whispered. "Then you'll carry it." Her hands shook harder. She tried pressing the rail shut, but the wood fought her. The lock bent, but wouldn't catch. The crib creaked open again, as though refusing to seal. She staggered to her feet, chest heaving. "It won't close." The neighbor stepped back into shadow. "It never does." Her voice rose sharp, almost desperate. "Then what do I do?" The answer came quietly. "You live with it." Her hands curled around the key, pressing it deep into her palm until blood beaded. She stared down at the crib, blankets stiff, rattle broken, the air thick with iron and silence. She whispered once more, "Who put this here?" No one answered. The wind rose faint over the grass, but it carried no sound of birds, no voices, only the heavy breath of earth unsettled. She stood rigid, every part of her locked in place, as if the crib itself had fixed her to the ground. The neighbor's door closed with a hollow thud. She remained, staring, unable to turn away, unable to breathe without tasting iron. The crib stayed open, wood groaning softly in the dark, beating like something alive. The letter sat folded clean on her porch step. No envelope, just a thick sheet, edges scorched as though lifted from fire. She bent and picked it up. The crest glared in the center, pressed deep into the paper, a circle, 2 branches crossing, the mark every man in the county knew. The governor's family seal. Her chest tightened. She unfolded it. Only one line of ink sprawled across. Bury it again, or be buried with it. Her fist closed tight around the page. The mark burned against her skin, though it was only paper. She turned toward the yard where the crib waited, still open, still reeking. The rattle lay crooked on the stained blankets. Her voice came sharp. "You think I scare easily." She stormed down the path, boots striking hard against dirt, letter still crushed in her hand. The town square opened in front of her, faces already turning away before she even reached the clerk's office. She shoved through the door and slammed the letter onto the desk. The clerk glanced once at the seal, then dropped his eyes fast. "Read it," she said. He swallowed. "I don't need to." "You will." "No." Her palm hit the wood. "Say it out loud." His hands trembled as he pushed the paper back toward her. "I can't." "You can." "You just won't." His voice cracked. "That brand isn't mine to speak of." Her eyes burned into him. "But you know what it means." Silence. "You've known all along," she pressed. He whispered, "Everyone does." Her throat caught. "Then tell me why the children were buried." He looked around as if walls had ears. "Lower your voice." "I won't." "Please. Number you'll tell me." The clerk's jaw trembled. "That brand, it's on more than paper. It's carved into barns, pressed into cattle, burned into doors. It owns this town." Her voice cut sharp. "And into graves." His lips pressed tight. "Say it." He shook his head. "I won't be the one." Her anger rose, fists curling. "You already are." He finally lifted his eyes. They glistened. "Don't dig deeper. Don't bring their names up. That family has buried more than cribs." Her voice dropped low. "They buried children." He flinched but didn't deny it. Her chest heaved. "And you kept their secret." "We all did." "You call that living?" His eyes filled with something like shame. "It was surviving." She leaned closer, words fast and sharp. Surviving for whom? Not for the mothers, not for the babies, only for the ones with the brand. He pushed the letter back harder. "You should go." "I'm not leaving until you tell me how long this has gone on." His voice cracked. "Longer than memory. My father knew. His father, too." Her throat burned. So, generations of silence. "Yes, generations of blood." He whispered, "Yes." She stood taller, voice shaking with fury. "And all of you let it rot in the dirt." He stared at the desk. "The governor owns more than land. He owns the air we breathe." She spat. "Not mine." The clerk's eyes darted again to the seal. "That mark follows you now. You can't shake it." "I'll burn it down." He whispered, almost pleading. "You'll burn with it." She snatched the letter from the desk and held it up high. "Then let him come. Let him say it to my face." The clerk shook his head, fear written deep. "He won't. He doesn't need to. His men will." Her chest heaved. "Then let them." She turned and stormed from the office. The door slammed behind her, rattling the glass. Outside, the street hushed. Eyes darted, then fled. No one met her stare. She walked down the center, holding the letter high like proof. Her voice carried hard. "You all knew." No answer. Only shutters closing. Only boots scraping away. Her words cut the silence. "Every last one of you knew." Still nothing. She lowered the letter, folded it slowly, and pressed it back into her pocket. Her hands shook with rage. She turned toward home. The dirt road stretched long. She could feel eyes from behind curtains and whispers she couldn't hear. The brand burned in her pocket. When she reached the yard, the crib still gaped open, waiting. She stood over it, pulled the letter free again, and dropped it onto the stained blankets. The crest glared up at her, black against red. Her voice cracked low. "Your brand doesn't scare me." The wood creaked beneath her words, as if answering back. She pressed her hand against the crib rail, iron still sharp in her other palm. She whispered into the silence, "I'll carry it into town myself. Let him bury me too if he dares." The crib groaned faintly and steadily, like a breath beneath wood. She closed her eyes but couldn't block the sound. The governor's mark burned in the back of her mind, as heavy as the key itself. She walked into town with the letter still in her pocket. Heads turned away before she even reached the square. Women she once greeted crossed the street fast, skirts brushing dust. A man who used to tip his hat ducked into the feed store without a word. She pushed through the door of the grocer's. The clerk stood stiff behind the counter. "Bread," she said. He didn't move. "Bread," she repeated. His hands stayed flat. "We're out." Her eyes cut to the loaves stacked behind him. "No, you're not." He swallowed. "Not for you." Her chest tightened. Say it again. Not for you. She slammed her fist against the counter. Coward! He flinched but didn't speak again. She turned and walked out, slamming the door so hard the glass rattled. The blacksmith's wife stepped aside as she passed. Her voice came low. You should have left it in the ground. The woman stopped. And let you keep stepping over it? The wife didn't answer. She turned her face and hurried away. By noon, every eye avoided hers. The silence of the town grew heavy, louder than speech. She stopped in front of the well, her voice cutting sharp across the square. You'll all look me in the eye and tell me you didn't know. No one answered. You knew, she pressed. Boots scuffed against stone. The sheriff stepped forward, 3 men at his side. Each one carried a shovel, his voice carried. It's time to put it back. She stiffened. No, it doesn't belong above ground. It doesn't belong in the dirt either. One of the men spat into the dust. You're stirring what was settled. Settled for who? She snapped. The sheriff's jaw tightened. For everyone who stayed alive because of it. She took a step forward, alive on silence. Alive's alive. Her voice cut. Not for the ones in that crib. The men shifted uneasily, but the sheriff didn't move. Pick it up, he ordered. She shook her head. You want it buried, you do it yourself. I won't touch it. Then don't ask me to. His voice rose. You think this is just about you? The governor won't let this stand. She spat at the ground. Let him come. The men stirred, muttering under their breath. The sheriff raised a hand to quiet them. Last chance, he said. Bury it. She glared. Whose child was it? The square went still. Every sound died. Even the wind dropped. She repeated louder. Whose child was it? The sheriff's face stayed stone. The men lowered their eyes. She stepped closer, her voice sharp as a blade. Say the name. No one spoke. Her chest heaved. She pointed back toward her yard. You let them rot under my ground, and now you think you'll cover it again with shovels and shame. The blacksmith's voice rose weakly from the crowd. It wasn't our choice. Then whose? She demanded. His eyes dropped. The ones with the brand. Murmurs rippled but cut off quickly as though the name itself were forbidden. She turned to the sheriff. You serve them, not us. His eyes hardened. I serve order. Order's just another word for fear. The men shifted, hands tight around their shovels. The square held its breath. She raised her voice loud enough for every ear. You tell me whose child it was. Still nothing. Faces turned away, shame thick as smoke. Her anger rose hot. She shouted, every one of you walks past that dirt knowing bones lie there, knowing mothers cried for them, knowing you let them disappear, and still you close your mouths. The silence after her words burned harder than noise. The sheriff finally spoke, voice flat. Go home. She stepped closer until her face was inches from his. Not until I hear the truth. He held her stare, then turned away. There won't be one. The men followed him, boots dragging. The square stayed hushed. No one moved toward her. She stood in the center, fists clenched, body shaking. The shame of the town clung heavy, pressing against her like a weight she could almost see. She whispered into the silence, then I'll carry it myself. The square didn't answer. She turned and walked back down the road. Curtains shifted as she passed, doors closing softly but fast. By the time she reached her yard, she knew. Whatever stood in that crib was hers alone now. The wood creaked as if it heard her return. The crack came first, wood snapping, sharp against the still night, then the glow. She ran out barefoot, smoke curling from the barn roof, fire already racing through the rafters. She shouted, voice raw. Who lit it? Shadows moved at the edge of the yard, men standing still, not coming forward. The barn roared louder, orange flames licking high. She turned to them. Say it. No answer. You did this, a voice rose from the dark. You brought it on yourself. Her fists shook. Cowards. Another voice. You opened what was buried. Because you left it there, she shot back. The barn wall caved, sparks bursting into the sky. The fire threw light across the yard, across their faces. She saw them now, neighbors, farm hands, men she'd known all her life. None stepped closer. Her voice cut through the heat. You think fire will silence me? One muttered. It'll silence you or burn you out. She spat at the ground. Not while that crib stands. Their eyes shifted toward it. Still in the dirt, still gaping open, the rattle gleaming faint red in the firelight. She strode to it, hands gripping the rails. With a cry, she dragged it out into the open, into the full glare of the flames. There, she shouted. "Look at it!" The men flinched. One cursed under his breath. Another spat. She raised her voice. "Every blanket, every stain. This is what you've hidden. Whose child was it?" Silence. She pushed harder. "Whose?" One voice cracked. "Don't ask." "I already did." The fire roared behind her, smoke rolling. Heat pressed against her back. She stood tall before the crib, daring them. Another voice burst from the crowd. "It wasn't ours." Her eyes cut sharp. "Then whose?" "The governor's," someone muttered low. She stepped forward, pointing. "Say it loud." No one repeated it. "You burn my barn," she snapped, "but you won't burn this." "You know why? Because even you fear what it holds." The men shifted, faces hard in the light. One shouted, "Shut her mouth before it curses all of us." She shouted back, "It already did. The curse is silence." The barn groaned, then collapsed, flames shooting high. Ash rained across the yard. She coughed, covered her mouth, but kept her stance before the crib. The men argued among themselves, voices rough. "She'll bring them down on us." "She already has." "Best we end it tonight." Her voice cut sharp. "Come closer then. Do it." None moved. "You want me gone? Step into the firelight. Face me." Their boots scraped, but not one man crossed the line between shadow and flame. She laughed bitterly, voice hoarse. "That's what I thought." One man broke. "You'll drag us all under." "You've been under for years," she snapped. "Buried like that crib." The crib's wood creaked, shifting under the heat. The rattle rolled slightly across the blankets, landing against the side rail with a hollow tap. The sound silenced even the fire for a breath. They stared. No one spoke. She pointed at it, voice raw. "Hear that? That's your shame. That's your fear. That's the sound of what you left behind." A curse tore from one man's lips. Another spat into the dirt. She shouted over them, "You think fire will save you? The flames die. The bones don't." The barn collapsed fully, sending sparks high. The men flinched back, but still didn't leave. Her voice steadied, low but sharp. "You'll remember this night. The night you tried to burn me out and left with nothing but your own fear." One man muttered, "You won't last." "I'll last longer than your silence." The fire lit her face, sweat streaking, eyes fierce. The crib glowed in the orange haze, wood groaning, blankets stiff. It looked alive, as if the flames themselves breathed through it. The men finally began to pull away, one by one, muttering curses as they went. None turned their back fully. They moved slowly, retreating to shadow. She stayed standing until the last figure vanished. The yard quieted except for the crack of fire and the low groan of the crib. Her voice fell to a whisper. "You didn't touch it. Not one of you." She dropped to her knees before the crib, hands trembling. The fire's glow bathed her in heat, sweat dripping down her face. She pressed her palm against the rail. The wood pulsed faintly under her touch. She closed her eyes. "I'll carry it, alone if I must." The barn collapsed to ash behind her, but the crib stayed upright, alive in the firelight. The knock came at dusk, not heavy, not timid either. She opened the door slowly. 5 women stood in a line, shawls pulled close, faces tight. Their eyes flicked past her into the yard where the crib waited, still in the open, still unburied. The oldest spoke first. "We need to come in." She stepped aside. They filed through, one after another, shoes dragging dust across her floor. No greetings, no hesitation, only purpose. They circled the table. The key lay in the center, their eyes fixed on it, then shifted to her. "Why now?" she asked. The oldest woman's voice cracked. "Because you brought it back into light. It never left. Buried isn't the same as gone." Her chest tightened. "Then you knew." Every head nodded. "Say it," she demanded. The second woman, younger but with streaks of gray, lifted her chin. "Our babies vanished. Not one, not two. Generations." Her throat caught. "And you stayed quiet." The woman's jaw clenched. "We were told to." "By whom?" "The same men who sent you that letter." Her hands curled to fists. "You let them take your children." A third woman snapped. "We didn't let them. They took them. In the night. From cribs. From arms. And told us if we spoke, more would follow." The youngest in the group, barely older than her, broke in fast. "My mother lost hers. My grandmother, too. I swore I'd never stay silent. But I did. Until now." Their voices piled over each other, clipped, furious. They said sickness took them. They said stillborn. They said cursed. They lied. She gritted her teeth. Then whose children lie in that crib? The room fell quiet. The oldest woman answered softly, all of ours. Her breath caught. All? As many as could be buried before tongues wagged. She slammed her palm against the table. And you obeyed? The youngest woman's eyes flashed. We obeyed because they carried guns, because they carried the brand, because when one woman asked too loud, they put her in the ground beside her child. Her voice lowered to a whisper. You lived with this. The second woman's voice cracked. We carried it in silence. We bled it in secret. But it never left. Not one night, not one breath. Their anger grew sharp, each word cutting fast. You think we didn't scream? You think we didn't claw? You think we didn't beg? They broke us quiet. Her own voice rose to match them. But you're here now. Yes, the oldest said, because you dragged it into open air, because the barn burned, because the men failed to stop you. Her eyes narrowed. And now? Now we won't be silent. The youngest stepped closer to the table, pointing at the key. That thing belongs to all of us, not just you. Her chest heaved. Then take it. No one moved. The oldest shook her head. We can't. It only stays in one hand at a time, but we'll stand with you while it's in yours. Her anger cracked into rawness. You left me to carry it alone. The second woman cut sharply. We carried it for years in our beds, in our arms, in our bellies. You're not alone. Not anymore. The words struck deep. Her hand trembled over the key. Then stand with me outside. They nodded. Everyone. She lifted the key, the iron digging into her palm again. Together they stepped into the yard. The fire-blackened ruins of the barn still smoldered. The crib stood in the dirt, open, blankets stiff, rattle resting against the rail. The women circled it. Their eyes burned in the glow of the fading day. The youngest spat at the ground. That's what they left us. The second muttered, that's what they fed their power with. The oldest raised her voice. No more. The air thickened. Their words came sharp, back to back. They told us to hush. They told us to pray. They told us to thank them for sparing the rest. They told us lies. Her own voice joined theirs, raw. They told us nothing. The youngest stepped closer to the crib, hands shaking. I see my brother in there. The second's voice cracked. I see my daughter. The third whispered, I see every one of them. They spoke over each other, voices rising like a storm. They said we were cursed. They said we were weak. They said we deserved it. They lied. The oldest woman's voice cut through, steady and fierce. We're not cursed. We're not weak. We're mothers. Silence followed, heavy and unbroken. The crib creaked softly in the dusk, as if listening. Her voice cracked. Then what do we do? The oldest turned her gaze to the road leading into town. We demand truth. How? By not stepping aside. The youngest shouted, by forcing their eyes on this. The second added, by naming what they buried. Her hand clenched the key tighter. Then we surround it. We don't move. The women nodded, one by one, eyes locked on the crib. The night deepened. Lamps flickered on porches far off, shadows moving behind curtains. Whispers carried on the wind, but no one stepped closer. The women stayed, circling the crib, refusing to break. Their voices lowered but stayed sharp and steady. They'll come. Let them. They'll threaten. Let them. They'll burn again. Let them. The key burned in her palm, heavier than before, but the weight no longer felt hers alone. She looked at their faces, lined, young, and scarred by years of silence. For the first time, their voices filled the yard louder than the shame. The oldest woman lifted her chin. This time, we speak. This time, we don't stop. The others echoed, blunt and furious. We don't stop. Her own voice joined, rough but sure. We don't stop. The crib groaned as if it heard, wood bending against the night air. The rattle rolled again, tapping once against the rail. None of them flinched. They stood tighter around it, shoulder to shoulder, their fury bound with grief. Their silence broken at last. The women hadn't moved all night. They circled the crib like stones, shoulders brushing, eyes set. The key burned in her fist. Dawn broke pale across the yard when the crunch of boots came down the road. The sheriff stood at the front, hat low, gun in hand. Behind him, a tall man in a clean coat. A stranger's face, but not a stranger's power. The governor's messenger. More men followed in the rear, rifles slung but not lifted. The women stiffened. None stepped aside. The sheriff's voice carried. "Move." She stood her ground. "No. You've had your say. I'm not done." His eyes flicked to the crib. "Close it. Bury it." Her fist lifted, key high. "Take it from me." His hand twitched on the gun. The messenger stepped forward, voice smooth, cutting. "You'll hand it over, quiet, clean, and no worse for you." Her jaw locked. "You think I fear you? You should." The women's voices rose quickly, overlapping. "We don't. We've feared enough. Not anymore." The sheriff snapped. "Quiet." The youngest mother shouted back. "You'll silence us like you silence them." The men stirred, muttering low. The sheriff's voice cut sharp. "Nobody here wants blood." Her voice broke hard. "Blood's already in the ground." The messenger sneered. "You're chasing ghosts." The oldest mother stepped forward, chin high. "We're chasing names." The sheriff raised his gun. "Step back." Her voice didn't waver. "Shoot me, then dig it yourself." His grip faltered. The messenger hissed. "Don't hesitate. End this." The sheriff's jaw clenched. His gun stayed pointed, but his eyes dropped. She shouted over him, voice raw. "Whose child was it?" No answer. She screamed again. "Whose?" The women's voices struck like stones. "My son. My daughter. My brother. My sister." The sound cut through the yard, blunt and furious. One mother's voice cracked loudest. "It was Samuel. Say his name." The sheriff flinched. His gun lowered an inch. The messenger barked. "Enough. That name doesn't get spoken." The mother screamed back. "It was mine." The women echoed, voices overlapping, sharp and broken. "They were ours. You buried them. You branded us with silence." The sheriff's hand shook. "Stop." Her voice rose, cutting through. "Look at us. We're not stopping." The men behind stirred uneasily, rifles shifting but not raised. One muttered low, "They're telling the truth." The messenger spun, eyes sharp. "Quiet." Her fist tightened around the key. "Come take it." The sheriff stared, gun trembling. The messenger snarled, "Do it." He didn't move. The oldest woman shouted, "Say their names." The sheriff's lips parted, voice low, breaking. "It wasn't my choice." Her eyes burned into him. "But you knew." He nodded once faintly. The messenger cursed, stepping forward. "Weak fool." She raised the key high. "Then take it from me." He reached fast, but the women surged closer around the crib, bodies tight, voices rising like a wave. "You won't. You can't. Not anymore." The messenger froze, eyes darting at their faces. The sheriff whispered, almost to himself, "It's louder now." Her chest heaved, because truth's near. The rattle inside the crib shifted, wood groaning against itself. The sound rippled through the yard, too real to deny. The messenger stepped back, eyes wide. "What did you do?" Her voice cracked. "I opened it." His face twisted. "Then you cursed us all." The youngest woman spat. "We were cursed when you took them." The oldest lifted her chin. "Now we curse you back." The messenger turned to the sheriff. "Control this." The sheriff's shoulders sagged. His gun dropped to his side. She stepped forward, pointing the key at him. "Say their names." He shook his head. "Say them." His voice broke. "Samuel." The mother fell to her knees, sobbing but fierce. Again. "Samuel," the sheriff repeated. The other women shouted names fast, sharp, and overlapping. "Anna. Grace. John. Mary." Each word cut the air. The messenger screamed, "Shut them up!" The sheriff stood still, gun hanging useless. His face pale, eyes wet. Her voice rose above all. "This is the weight you put on us. Now we put it on you." The crib groaned louder, blankets shifting, though no hand touched them. The rattle struck the rail, echoing like a heartbeat. The men at the rear backed away, rifles dropping. One muttered, "Not staying for this." The messenger cursed, furious. "Cowards." The women's voices swelled. No more silence. No more fear. No more graves. The sheriff whispered, voice hollow, "It won't stop now." Her eyes locked on his. Good. The messenger turned to flee. She shouted after him. Run. Back to your governor. Tell him the key's mine now. Tell him the mothers speak. He stumbled into the road, vanishing into shadow. The sheriff stayed frozen. She stepped closer and pressed the key high into the dawn light. You'll dig with us, or you'll stand accused. His voice cracked. What if we find more? Her words cut clean. Then we count them. The women tightened their circle around the crib, their voices steady, blunt. We count them. We name them. We bury them right. The sheriff lowered his gun fully, eyes hollow. Then it's over for all of us. Her voice struck back. It only begins. The crib groaned once more, loud enough that every head turned. The rattle rolled free, falling into the dirt with a hollow thud. The sound carried across the yard. No one spoke. The women stood firm, the sheriff broken, the messenger gone. The key burned in her hand, heavier than ever, but for the first time it didn't crush her alone. She whispered into the silence, Now we dig. The shovel struck first with a hollow thud. Clay split, damp earth giving way. The women stood in a circle around the crib, their shawls pulled tight, their eyes fierce. The sheriff held his gun useless at his side, boots sinking into the dirt. The governor's messenger lingered at the edge, coat sharp but his face pale. She gripped the key in one hand, the other tight around the shovel handle. Her voice carried. We dig now. No one answered. Only the scrape of metal against soil filled the silence. The sheriff cleared his throat, his voice breaking. You don't know what's... She cut him off. I know enough. The shovel bit deeper. Wet earth clung to the blade. Another mother bent to help, her hands steady, though her breath came sharp. The sound of digging grew louder. Boots shifted. Men watching from the edge of the yard muttered low, but none stepped closer. The messenger finally spoke, voice clipped. Stop this before it ruins you. Her head snapped up. It's already ruined. We're only naming it now. The oldest mother spat into the dirt. He wants silence. That's all he's ever wanted. The women dug harder. Clay turned redder the deeper they went. The sheriff took a step forward. You don't understand, he stammered. She turned on him fast. Then tell us what's buried. His mouth opened and closed. He shook his head. I can't. You will. The shovel struck something solid. The sound cracked the air. Every head turned. Her chest tightened. She bent low and brushed soil away with her hand. White, small, fragile. Her breath caught. Bone. The mothers gasped. Some cried out short, raw sounds. Others pressed hands to mouths, but none stepped back. The oldest woman whispered, Lord, forgive us. The sheriff staggered forward, voice hollow. Stop. Cover it again. Her head rose sharply. No. He trembled. Please. You look at it. She pointed to the ground. Say what it is. His voice cracked. It's nothing. Say it. His hands shook around the gun. It's just... Say it. His voice broke. It's a child. The word hung heavy in the yard. The women wept, shoulders shaking, but they did not fall. They stood upright, eyes locked on the dirt. She pressed harder. Whose? The sheriff's face crumpled. I don't know. You do. He staggered back. Not one. Not one name. Her voice rose, sharp and brutal. Then all of them. The women bent together, scraping more soil away. Tiny bones surfaced, ribs, fingers, and a small skull. Gasps filled the air. The sound of weeping carried, but so did the sound of steel against earth. The messenger turned, backing away. This ends now, she shouted. You run. Then you carry their shame with you. He spun, coat snapping, but his boots faltered as more bones surfaced. He choked, covered his mouth, and fled into the dark. The sheriff stared into the pit, face pale. The mothers pressed closer, skirts dragging mud, voices low but unbroken. One mother whispered, That's mine. Another said, That one too. The sheriff's knees buckled. Stop. Please stop. She pointed the shovel at him. You'll name them. I can't. You will. His chest heaved. I don't know their names. Then you'll know ours. The mothers shouted over him, voices fast and blunt. Grace. Samuel. Anna. Mary. John. Eliza. The names spilled like stones. The sheriff shook his head, tears streaking his face. Don't, he whispered. The women didn't stop. James. Ruth. Daniel. Sarah. Their voices rose, breaking years of silence. The sheriff dropped his gun. It hit the dirt with a hollow thud. He fell to his knees, hands covering his ears. "Stop!" Her voice cut sharp. "Number U stopped us once. Not again." The pit widened. More bones. Dozens. Too many to count. Small skulls lined together, ribs tangled, cloth fragments still clinging. The smell of old earth mixed with iron. The women didn't turn away. They cried. They shook. But they stood. One mother shouted, "Look at them!" The sheriff raised his head, tears blinding him. "Say it," she demanded. His lips trembled. "Children? Whose?" "All of them." "Whose order?" His throat locked. She shouted, "Say it." His voice broke. "The governor's." The words cut like a blade through the crowd. Gasps rose. Some men cursed. One spat into the dirt. The oldest mother whispered, "I knew it." The youngest cried, "And you all stayed quiet." The sheriff sobbed. "We thought it would stop. We thought if we obeyed, it would stop." Her rage cut through. It never stopped. The pit grew deeper and wider. Bones piled, fragile, countless. The women circled it, shoulders squared. Their voices rose in fragments. "You let them take ours. You let them bury ours. You let them brand us with silence. No more." The sheriff collapsed fully, face in the dirt. His voice was muffled. "I can't undo it." She stepped over him, pointing down. "But you'll name it. Every man here will name what he sees." The crowd had grown. Men lined the edge of the yard, silent, stiff. She turned on them. "You," she snapped, pointing to one. "What's there?" He stammered. "Bones." "Say it louder." "Bones." "Whose?" His voice cracked. "Children's." She pointed to another. "You." "Say it." He swallowed. "Children." Again. "Children." The word echoed across the yard. One by one, each man spoke it. Voices trembling, but clear. The mothers wept harder, but they stayed standing. The sheriff lifted his head. Dirt streaked across his face. "What will you do now?" Her voice steadied, sharp. "We'll carry them into light. You'll tear the town apart. It was already torn. You'll bring ruin." She spat. "Better ruin than silence." The pit yawned wider. Bones gleamed pale in the dawn. The crib above it groaned, wood splintering as though its burden had shifted. The rattle tumbled into the hole, striking bone with a hollow clack. The mothers gasped, but did not step back. One whispered, "It belongs with them." Her voice hardened. "They belong with us." The sheriff shook his head. "You don't know what you've done." She raised the key high. "I know exactly what I've done. I've forced you to look." The men lowered their heads. None spoke. The shame hung heavy, pressing down on every chest. She stepped to the edge of the pit, voice raw. "This cannot be buried again." The mothers echoed blunt and fierce. "No." She looked at the sheriff. "You'll dig with us." His voice cracked. "I can't." "You will." "I don't have strength." Her fury cut through. "Then borrow ours." She pressed a shovel into his hands. His fingers curled around it, shaking. Slowly, he bent to dig. The crowd watched, silent, as the sheriff scraped soil from the bones he'd once guarded. His shoulders shook with every lift of the blade. The oldest mother whispered, "Now he carries weight." The youngest said, "Not enough." Her voice steadied. "But it's a start." The sun rose higher. The pit grew wider. Bones kept surfacing, fragile, countless, undeniable. Men turned away. Some fled, but most stayed. The women did not move. Their voices rose again, not screams now, but steady declarations. "We see them. We name them. We carry them." The sheriff dropped the shovel, fell to his knees again, sobbing into the earth. She lifted the key once more, her voice loud enough to carry. "This town will never hide again. This shame is yours. This truth is ours." The pit lay open, bones gleaming in the light. Impossible to deny, impossible to cover. The crib loomed above it, empty now, yet alive with memory. The silence that followed was heavier than grief, heavier than fire, heavier than death, and none dared to break it. They carried it at first light, 6 hands on the rails, skirts dragging through dust, boots sinking into the road. The crib creaked with every step. Wood strained but unbroken. The key stayed in her palm, heavy, colder than the morning air. No one stopped them. Doors cracked open, shutters lifted, and faces peered out and froze. The women walked in silence, the sheriff trailing behind, hat low, gun gone. Every sound was the crib, groaning, dragging, alive in the middle of the street. At the square, they set it down. The rattle clinked once against the side. No one touched it again. She straightened, voice steady. "It stays here." A man muttered from the crowd, "Don't belong in town." Her eyes cut to him. "It belongs where all can see." The oldest mother's voice followed, "No more dirt." A younger one added, "No more hiding." The sheriff shifted and cleared his throat. "You've made your point." Her stare pinned him. "Not yet." He swallowed. "What more do you want?" The truth said out loud. The square hushed. The townsfolk pressed closer, boots scuffing stone, whispers sharp as blades. She lifted the key high. Whose children were they? The silence stretched. Then a mother broke it, her voice firm. "Ours." Another added, "Taken." Another, "Buried." The words cut the morning still. The crowd flinched. She turned to the sheriff. "Say it." His jaw clenched. "Say it," she pressed. His voice cracked. "Children, whose order?" He shook his head weakly. She stepped closer, voice hard. "Say his name." The sheriff's shoulders sagged. His whisper barely carried. "The governor's." Gasps rippled through the square. One man spat. "Knew it." Another cursed. "Always his brand." A woman shouted, "He took ours." Voices rose, sharp, angry, no longer afraid. "The governor's blood is rotten. He stole what was ours. He'll pay." The sheriff lifted his hands weakly. "Quiet." The crowd cut him down. "No more quiet." The oldest mother turned to him, voice fierce. "You resign today." His face tightened. "I can't." "You will," she snapped. He staggered, pale. "Who'll keep order?" Her voice hit hard. "The order's already broken." The women echoed. "Broken." His eyes dropped. He pulled the badge from his chest, slowly, hands trembling. He set it on the edge of the crib. The metal glinted against the stained blankets. "I'm done," he whispered. The crowd roared. Not cheers, not triumph, but raw fury turned loose. Men cursed the governor's name. Women spat into the dust. Children clutched mother's skirts, watching wide-eyed. She stepped forward and laid the key on the crib. The iron teeth glared in the light. Her voice carried low, but firm. "It never belonged to me. It belongs to every name you buried." The youngest mother whispered, "What do we do now?" She looked over the crowd, eyes fierce. "We live with it, in open air, not in silence." The people muttered, unsettled. One man barked, "You'll bring his wrath." Another shouted back, "Let him come." The oldest mother raised her chin. "We curse his name." The crowd echoed, voices rising, blunt and furious. "Curse him. Curse his brand. Curse his house." The governor's name spilled from lips that had never dared speak it. Cursed loud, cursed clear. The square shook with it. The sheriff stumbled back, face hollow. He muttered, "You don't know what you've started." Her voice struck him. "We've started truth." The women tightened their circle around the crib, eyes blazing. One shouted, "It stands here till the end." Another added, "So no one forgets." The men shifted uneasily, but none dared challenge them. The cribs sat silent in the square, but it seemed larger now, heavier, more alive. The rattle rested still against the rail, as if it had always belonged there. She stepped back, breathing hard. The weight of the key gone from her hand left her hollow but free. The oldest mother spoke softly. "You're leaving it?" She nodded. "It doesn't belong to me anymore." The sheriff stared at the key, voice faint. "Then who holds it?" She turned to him. "All of us." The crowd quieted. Even the curses died down. The silence that followed was different. Not fear, not shame. Something harder, something settled. She looked once more at the crib, its rails cracked, blankets stiff, but standing like a monument. Her voice softened but carried. "It stays empty, but it speaks." The women bowed their heads. The men shifted, uneasy. The sheriff turned away, shoulders slumped, no longer law. She walked from the square, steps slow and steady. No one stopped her. No one spoke. The silence followed her down the road, pressing heavy, but not the silence of fear. Behind her, the crib loomed in the center, standing tall in daylight, no longer buried, no longer hidden. The final image lingered in every eye. Wood splintered, iron still, blankets stiff with blood long dried, the rattle silent. The crib stood empty. The town no longer was.